Bonjour YouTube, welcome back with another video. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Stygian Onslaught. It just released today, the new version of the Stygian with 3 new bosses. And I'm going to give you all the tips, all the best teams, gameplay, strategies, and stuff like that I could find before the day 1 of the Stygian. So I can help you at least clear Fearless. It's going to be mainly for Fearless. As usual, my guides are mostly for Fearless. For Dire, it's a little bit different in general. So we'll keep that for the future videos. And yeah, I was able to test a lot on the creator server, so maybe a few things have changed, but it's mostly going to be the same. And I'll give you the HP of the bosses, the mechanics of the bosses, and what I think are the best teams and best strategies for each bosses. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment to help with the algorithm, it would help a lot. And hope you enjoy the video. So first in the Stygian, we got 2 new bosses and 1 boss that reruns from previous Stygian. The first boss that is new is going to be that new Abyss dog, Lord of the Hidden Depth. Basically, it's going to be some lunar reaction shield. So if you have lunar characters like Nefer or Flint, it's going to be much easier. Of course, you will be able to clear with other teams, but it's going to be much more difficult. And I will show you how you can do it with some different teams. So first, the main mechanic of this boss is that at the start of the fight, it's going to create a shield. This shield is equal to 45% of the HP of the boss. And he's going to summon some little monsters at the same time. So the strategy here for this boss is basically going to be to break the shield as fast as possible. If you have lunar characters, the shield takes 300% more damage from lunar damage. So of course with Nefer and Flint, it's going to be much easier. Even if you're using Columbina and Inify just together, it's going to be much easier as well. If you don't have any lunar character, it's going to be, you're going to need a lot more DPS. Each dogs that the boss will summon will have 18% of the HP. And when you kill them, each one will reduce the shield by 25%. So if you don't have lunar characters, you can use regular team by killing those dogs that will only have... Basically, in Fearless, it's about 2.2 million HP. Decent amount of characters can reach that amount of damage. The key is going to be able to group those monsters. That's where Kazuha will be very useful, but we'll cover this a little bit later. One thing to note as well is that when you deal lunar reaction to the shield the first time, your characters will regenerate 36 energy. So it's a lot of energy, and it's one more thing that makes it easier with lunar character. And then when the shield is destroyed, the boss will take 20% of his max HP, and all his resistance will drop minus 60%. Alright, now in terms of gameplay, so for the Abyss dog, I'm gonna call it the Abyss dog, I don't know if it's a dog or whatever, but for the Abyss monster, as I said earlier, at the start of the fight, it's gonna get that lunar shield that takes 300% more damage from lunar reaction. So of course, if you have Nefer and Flint, it's gonna be a walk in the park, honestly, like even F2P, even if you don't have the full premium team, it shouldn't be that big of a problem. It has 12 million HP in Fearless, 24 million HP in Dire, so it's a lot of HP, but as I said, it takes 300% more damage from lunar reaction while it has the shield, so you can clear the shield pretty fast if you have lunar characters. And once you break the shield, the boss will take 20% of his max HP, and on top of that, the res will be reduced, so if you have lunar characters, it shouldn't be a problem, at least for Fearless, and then for Dire, you probably need a bit more investment. In terms of gameplay here, the key is really to focus the shield at the start of the fight. After that, you can DPS as fast as possible. You will get some energy back when you start the fight, when you start doing lunar reactions to the boss. And then, yeah, you will be able to do your rotation properly. Once you break the shield, less resistance, so more damage. After that, he's going to recover for a bit and then start attacking you, do some damage, move a little bit, so you got to be careful with the movements. But in terms of gameplay, that's basically the only mechanic, like it's the shield and the mini dogs. Be careful with the damage that the boss deals, because it deals a decent amount of damage. But other than that, if you're able to dodge the attacks with lunar characters, it's going to be free. Now, if you don't have lunar characters, you can use some teams like Mawika or Arlecchino or things like that. The key is really to have a grouper, so you can use Kazuha, you can use Jean. Actually, Jean pulls the enemies pretty well, especially if you have C1. Sucrose is also pretty good if you're able to time the skill properly when the bosses spawns. Even the burst of Sucrose actually groups them pretty well. And then with Mawika, Arlecchino, you can do some decent AoE damage, whether you're using Melt Team, Monopyro, or even Vape. It shouldn't be too bad if you have a decently invested Mawika and good supports. But it's still pretty tricky, so if you at least have Inify or Columbina, it's almost required for this boss. When the boss starts getting the shield, he's gonna move to the left of the map from the start of the fight, so keep that in mind so you can start doing your rotation in that area so you don't waste too much time. Now, the second boss is one boss that we had in the past already, the Fatui Shock Trooper that we had in the past before when Flynn's released. Mechanic is basically the same. At the start of the fight, the boss will spawn a shield, an electro shield that has 3 layers, and each layer is going to be 4.5% max HP of the boss. When the shield is up, the boss will have increased res by 60% except for electro, and the shield also takes 600% increased electro charge damage and 200% lunar charge damage increase. While you're hitting the shield, if you're not doing electro charge or lunar charge, the shield will slowly regenerate, so it's really important if you're able to lunar charge or electro charge. When you break a layer of the shield, the boss will take 6% of his max HP and will also generate 18 electro particles. You have about 25-30 seconds to break the shield, and once you break the shield, all the resistance of the boss will go down 50%, so he's going to be at minus 40% res. And after the boss recovers, after you break the shield, the resistance of electro will decrease by 60%. So once again, if you have Flynn's here or Inifa, it's going to be a walk in the park in Phyllis. You really don't need anything else. If you have Columbina, you can also do some electro charge and lunar charge teams that are going to work very well. So if you have at least one piece of the puzzle here, it shouldn't be too hard. The boss has 9.2 million HP in Phyllis and 17.2 million HP in Dire. So it's a decent amount of HP as well, especially with the shield. 5% of his max HP is about 500k shield layer, so it's about 1.5 million HP total. Every time you break one layer, it's going to take 6% of his max HP, and you really want to have some electro charge reaction if you're not using lunar reactions to break that shield. If you have Flynn's Inifa, it's literally like easy. At least for Phyllis, it's going to be completely free. Like you can do Inifa with almost any team, and it's going to be able to clear that boss. Same, any F2P Flynn's team should be pretty good. If you don't have any lunar character, then you can use characters like Varessa, Clohan. You can do teams with Yansan, Farina to get some electro charge. That's basically it with regular teams, regular electro charge, lunar charge. Now, if you don't have electro charge, if you don't have lunar charge, Mawika, Skirk, Alekino have been able to clear this boss in the past, and I've been able to replicate it as well, but it is pretty tricky. You need to learn the combos, preferably with especially Mawika and Skirk. You need a decent amount of DPS to be able to break the shields without while it's regenerating, and you need to set up your rotations properly. For example, with Skirk, you will need to charge your burst at the start of the fight so you can get a big burst and then do some normal attacks. And then finally, some overload teams can permanently stagger the boss, but it's really hard to execute, so maybe I'll make a video on covering that later on, but I wouldn't recommend necessarily overload teams for this. I mean, you can try with Mawika, she might have enough damage, but in general, like being able to permanently stagger so he never gets the shield again, or even from the start of the fight, you can stagger it with overload. You can give it a try. There are some videos from previous rotations already out there that do it with Alekino or Mawika. But it's really hard to execute, so good luck. If you're not able to destroy the electro shield from the shock trooper on time, it will start dealing a lot of damage very fast. Some lightning will strike from the sky, and then you will get destroyed. So, and also the resistance will be insanely high after that, so you really want to be able to break the shield or make it so he doesn't get the shield. Now the last boss is the Emperor of Fire and Iron. It's the Fontaine Crab boss that has a pyro shield, and usually what you want to do is break that shield as fast as possible so you can deal damage. But here in Phyllis difficulty, the boss will spawn some mini crabs that you want to focus rather than the main boss shield. Indeed, the shield has 64 units of pyro, so you need a lot of application if you actually want to break this. And the boss will take more damage by killing the mini crabs. The crabs will record some of the damage that you will deal to them and then deal it back to the boss, plus break the shield faster. While the boss has the shield, all his resistance will be increased by 150%, so you will almost not deal any damage anyways. Each mini crab will have 12 units of pyro shield, and once you break those shield, they will deal those 12 units back to the pyro shield of the main boss. So since you can do AoE, it's better to clear those mini crabs and deal way faster damage to the shield of the of the crab than focusing the big crab directly. And as I said, these mini crabs will record 60% of the hydro damage taken and 10% of every other type of damage taken and deal it back to the boss once you break those crabs. And the maximum damage you can inflict to the boss by this mechanic is going to be 15% of the max HP of the boss. For the crab, basically the best teams for the crabs are going to be some AoE Hydro teams. So Nevi, even a Yato can potentially clear if you have a very good Yato. I was quite close on the creator server with pretty bad builds, so I think it might be doable. I was able to clear with Mwalani as well. As I said earlier, the mini crabs will record some of the damage taken. So if you do very high Hydro damage on the mini crabs, you will be able to deal decent amount of damage to the boss, and Mwalani has very insane vapes. Against this crab, you will take a lot of damage, the boss deals a lot of damage, and also the crabs will permanently shoot some projectiles at you, so you gotta be careful with that. And also the boss will not be infused with pyro, contrary to the mini crabs that where you can vape with Mwalani. The boss will not have pyro on it, so the good thing is that you can always swirl. If you're bringing Kazuha, for example, you can still swirl Hydro despite having Pyro everywhere. And you can still do some vapes eventually as well. Once the shield is down from the big crab, you can swirl the Pyro from the mini crab with like Sucrose Burst or Kazuha Burst. And then you can still get some vapes on the big crab with the good timings. So Mwalani is actually really insane against this boss, but it's a bit harder to play than Neuvillette, for example. As shown in my previous Columbina video, I was able to clear with Columbina, Inefa, Farina, Shironen. So as long as you have good AoE Hydro and decent damage overall, it's not going to be too complicated. You don't necessarily need Nevi or Mwalani, but it's still going to be complicated overall. The boss has 8.5 million HP in Fearless and 14 million HP in Dire. Once you break the shield, the boss is down for very few seconds, so the timings are pretty tight if you want to do some like Mwalani Vape or stuff like that, or even deal damage to the boss while it's down. But the real key to this fight is really killing the mini crabs as fast as possible while doing as much damage as possible to those mini crabs. In terms of best teams for this Stygian Onslaught, as I said earlier, for the first boss, any Lunar team will be the best. So if you have Inefa, Columbina, you can just, honestly, you can just slot Columbina, Inefa anywhere, but I'll go over each boss one by one. So Inefa, Columbina with Nefer or Flynn's teams are going to work very well. I mean, any Lunar team will be the best, basically. So Nefer or Flynn's are going to be the best. If you have both, you probably want Nefer first and then Flynn's on the Lunar charge shield boss. But yeah, any Lunar reaction team first boss will be the best option, 100%. Now, if you don't have any of those, you can do Mawika Melt. So Mawika Melt with Bennett, Silali. You will need Silali, and then preferably Kazuha. Where is my Silali? I think she is. I don't know. She's here. And then either Sucrose or Kazuha for the grouping, because you absolutely want to group those dogs to be able to break the shield. Otherwise, you need way too much DPS to be able to break the shield without the 300% damage bonus. And if you have a very good Arlecchino or if you have a very good Skirk, it's potentially doable, but the problem is really grouping the enemies. So with Arlecchino, you can still bring Kazuha. With Skirk, you can't really bring grouping, so it might be a bit tricky with this. Now for the second boss, as I said earlier, Lunar Charge, Electro Charge teams are going to be the best. So Flynn's, Inefa, with anything. Of course, you want one Hydro, so like Aino, Farina, whatever. Anything can work as the Hydro slot here. And then last slot is usually Sucrose or an Anemo character. You can even do Shironen if you really don't have any other options. But yeah, any Flynn's team with one Hydro is going to be able to clear this pretty decently well. You can also do any team with Columbina, Inefa for that boss is going to work really well. Even just Inefa with some Hydro characters should be able to clear this boss with a decent build. And then now, if you don't have any Lunar Charge teams, as I said earlier, Varesa with Yansan, Farina, and Xianyun is going to work great. Even if it's not this exact team, Varesa can have enough damage with a decent build to clear this boss shield. And also you'll get the Electro Charge with Farina, so the shield will not regenerate. Chlorine works as well with a similar team. I mean, not Xianyun, but like something similar. Raiden's not going to be a great option because her skill doesn't proc on the shield, so don't think about Raiden. And then some lower DPS Electro Charge team like Nevi with Fischl. Where's Fischl? Nuvi with Fischl, Farina, and then a healer like Shilonen or something like that, or Kazuha for some more swills that will give you some reactions can be nice. Now, if you don't have any Electro Charge or Lunar Charge teams, as I said earlier, Skirk with premium team, you will need at least Farina Escoffier. If you don't have Shenhe or Silali, it's fine. It can work with Yelan. But you at least need the core wheelchair Farina Escoffier to be able to have enough damage. After that, Mawika. If you have an R1 Mawika or even not R1 but a decent Mawika, you can definitely do it with Mawika. Either with Mawika Mono Pyro. I managed to clear that last rotation with Mawika Mono Pyro on some viewers' account. You can do Mawika Overload. With a good Mawika Overload, it's also doable. So like Yansan, Oron, Chevreuse. You need to learn the combos if you want to be able to do it pretty well, I think. And then from what I remember as well, and from my testing, an Arlecchino with decent build is able to break the shield as well. So Arlecchino Mono Pyro, honestly, if you have R1, C0 R1, it's definitely doable. She has pretty good damage on single target as well, like that. And finally, for the last boss, the best teams are going to be Neuvillette with Farina, preferably some AoE, so like Sucrose or Kazuha, to give a bit of grouping. And then last slot, Shilonen or a shield or another Hydro even, you could. Considering the enemies all have Pyro already, you will get that Pyro reaction from Nevi's passive plus another one, so you can at least get 2 stacks even if you're going triple Hydro. And if you're not going triple Hydro, then you will guarantee maximum damage since you're gonna have 2 other elements. And if you have C1 on top of that, you can literally run triple Hydro and you will maximize the Nevi buff anyways. Inefa, Nevi, Farina, Inefa, Shilonen is going to be great. If you have Columbina, you can even do this team. I cleared this with this team very well, and it works great. Very good AoE. After that, you can do the Nevi team, but with Skirk this time. So Nevi, Farina, Skirk, Escoffier. If you have this team, I cleared it with this as well, and it's pretty good, honestly. And then the other best team might be even better than Nevi team, honestly. The Mwalani team, if you have a solid Mwalani, you can run Mwalani with Farina, so you get extra Hydro application. And then last slot can be Sucrose Shilonen. With this team, I was able to clear very well. You can swell Hydro on the big boss, even if there's Pyro everywhere else. And you're not going to get some vapes necessarily on the big boss while the shield is down. You need to be able to infuse Sucrose Burst with Pyro to be able to do that, but it's doable. Even a decent Bloom team can definitely clear this at Fearless. So for example, this team with Columbina, Nilou, Nahida, Lauma, if you make sure your talents are leveled up properly and you got the correct builds on each character, this team can have enough Hydro AoE to clear the crab pretty well. And yeah, I think that's basically it for this guide for this rotation. This is the first day. Once again, I did a bit of testing beforehand on creator servers, so I tested a bunch of teams. Those are the best teams that I found for now. We might figure out some new tricks during the rotation as usual, and I'm going to cover them in my future videos. I'm going to have more showcase in the upcoming videos as well with different teams, so stay tuned for that, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful, and good luck with the Stygian rotation. Thanks for watching.